Hey folks, it's Jeremy, the host of Blammo. Thanks so much for listening. This is a preview of one of our exclusive shows on Patreon. These are member-supported shows, meaning they only happen because of our incredible members and community. So check out a preview of the episode, and if you like it, consider joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/Blammo, where we have tons of exclusive Blammo episodes, shows, our amazing Slack group, and we're adding new things for members all the time. If not, no worries, we still love you, and we literally have hundreds of episodes of Blammo all free for you to dive into. Thanks so much.
Hey, Derek, how are you?
Hey, Peter.
Doing well?
Yes, doing very well. Let's talk about this video that I recently saw. This video is on YouTube. It's from a YouTuber named Les Thomas, I believe. And he did like a 12 or 15-minute video asking whether you get treated differently depending on what you wear. Specifically, I think he wore like a t-shirt, maybe a pair of cargo pants or jeans or something like that. I think a sweatshirt slung over his shoulder. And then another video where he wore this very slim pinstripe three-piece suit.
I saw that. Yeah, it was quite
like a
slim.
Blueberry color.
I wonder if anyone will treat me different
if I
because
like
I look like a
Pity
blueberry
Womo.
lollipop.
If I look like I'm at Pity Womo. But anyway.
Not that we're judging him.
His videographer said that he looked like a cross between a pastor and a car salesman or something like that. But he was very kind of like Pity Womo-esque 2010. Yeah. But regardless, I think most people just see him as a guy in a suit. And he went through a series of experiments. The first experiment is him standing in this like public area, a lot of people walking by, and he's trying to get people to give him directions. So he'd say, do you know how I can get to the train station? And he would test how people would treat him depending on what he wore. The second experiment was him going to 4 different stores, 2 Gucci stores, 2 Louis Vuitton stores. The first set of stores, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, he would wear the t-shirt and it was like, again, like cargo pants or jeans or something, like very basic casual. And then the next set of Gucci, Louis Vuitton stores, he arrived in this blueberry suit. And then the third experiment was him back at the little town square and him telling people that someone just stole his wallet. Can they give him €5 to take the train back home? And he wanted to see if whether people, like then you're like asking something real from them. You're not just asking for directions. You're asking for €5, which is, not a huge amount, but it's, it's not trivial either.
Yeah, it's not pocket change.
Yeah, it's not pocket change. So at the end of the video, his kind of conclusion is that when nothing is at stake, when you're just asking for directions, he saw no difference. He felt that he saw a major difference when he was at the stores. I will say that the first and the last experiment was like you saw the interactions. Right. The stores, reasonably, his videographer could only get like a little bit of footage.
Yeah, understandably, it would be difficult to
it would look natural for like all of a sudden this videographer filming
he has nothing to do with me. Yeah. Please carry on.
Yeah. So there's only a little bit of footage, so you kind of have to trust him at his word. He claims that he got treated much differently inside these luxury stores if he wore a suit, much better. And then for the third, he claims that when something is at stake, when he's asking for €5, he claims that when something is at stake, he does get treated better. I watched the whole experiment video thing.
Yeah.
I saw no difference in the first experiment. He got directions regardless.
Yeah.
Second experiment, I just have to take him at his word. Okay, if that's what you claim, that's what happened. The third experiment, I didn't notice any difference.
No, and I think at the end, he mentioned, which is something that I agree with, when nothing is on the line for the person he's talking to, that it didn't make much of a difference. So if, for example, if nothing is on the line, I wonder if this person is going to do something for me. Well, if you're asking for directions or if you're asking for $5, well, you're not asking to do something for them. You're asking them for something. So yeah, nothing is on the line for the person you're asking. They just have to give you something, either directions or money. Whereas if something is on the line for the person you're asking, meaning they can get commission, well then yeah, they're going to take note.
You're saying the difference is in the first and last experiment, he's trying to get something from the person. In the second experiment, someone is potentially going to get something from him.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to stress that I did not think that his 13-minute video, the experiments run the first 10 minutes, his conclusion is the last 3 minutes or something like that.
Right.
I did not think that the first 10 minutes supported his conclusion, which is that he received actual different treatments. But I will say that that makes more sense to me. That I should say that I don't feel that I've ever been really treated differently depending on what I've worn. But I can see how if a salesperson sees someone that they think they can earn a commission from, they will, kind of target that person for a sale. That's not necessarily like a good thing either, but
right. And
but, yeah. And the other thing is that I would note is that in the beginning of the video, he also noted that seemingly he doesn't wear tailored clothing very often, and he said that he feels more confident in tailored clothing. This is the kind of tricky part, is that whenever people say these ideas about whether you get treated differently if you're in tailoring, I sort of feel it depends. If you don't wear tailoring with much regularity and it's kind of an occasional thing, then you feel special. You feel confident when you're in tailoring. And therefore, maybe people are just reacting to your confidence and your outgoingness and your self-assuredness or whatever it is.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a scientific experiment.
Yeah, so it's kind of dodgy. Have you ever been treated differently based on what you wear?
I have, but only in those situations. Well, I won't say only, because I haven't really conducted a scientific experiment and taken notes. But in my past, if I have been in a situation where someone can do something for me, meaning someone in customer service or someone who is a sales associate, someone whose job it is to help people or to look after people, then yes, I have noticed a difference. And I'll give you an example. Whenever I go, and I'm not saying that you should do this, but this is just my experience. Whenever I go on a plane, I try and dress nice, because I notice that those that are in customer service or those who are at a desk trying to help people as they file in and out of the airport, they tend to treat me better. And I say me because I can't speak what they do to other people, but they tend to treat me better than if I show up in just sweats and tennis shoes. And since I've noticed that, I have made a point to dress a little better when I do that. And
I've never gotten that while traveling. I've never.
But how often do you travel?
I don't travel as often as you, but I travel to see my parents.
Sure.
And I've never received any special treatment from wearing a tailored jacket.
But have you asked for special treatment?
No.
Okay, so I have. So I will ask, by chance, is there any way for me to upgrade? Or I've noticed that there are some seats ahead of me. Are those taken? And if not, can I take them? And I've noticed that, only one time. So I can't say that, again, I can't say this is a scientific experiment. But when I was dressed nice, as I have been doing for like the past 10 years, when I am dressed nice, then the one time that I asked and they said yes, I happened to be in like a sport coat. No tie, but I happened to be in a sport coat. And they said, yes, actually, and why don't you just go ahead and take it? And I was like, sweet. Now, I can't contribute that to what I was wearing,
right,
or my dashing good looks, or if that person was just in a good mood.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to attribute that. Again, this is not a real scientific experiment. So I think when viewing that video, people are probably going to, and this is unfortunate, but they're probably going to reinforce preconceived ideas.
Yeah. That was the thing, is at the end of the video, I just felt like you're just trying to sell this idea, because if you did all of that and the conclusion was, well, nothing really happened, then you wouldn't have gotten like close to 1 million views.
Right.
The only time that I've been treated with at least what I thought was undue service of more than what I'm used to is one time I visited the Omega store in San Francisco, Omega, the watch brand.
Oh, yeah.
And I was wearing a suit. I don't remember what suit, but I was wearing a suit. And I asked if I could try on the Speedmaster and some other watch.
Is that when they handed you a $30,000?
They handed me a $90,000.
$90,000.
So this person brought out these 2 watches and he had me try them on, and he said, I can only show you 2 watches at a time, and then so I'll show you these 2, and then I'm gonna go get some more, and then I'm gonna get some more. And at the end, he brought out what he said was the special watch, and I can't remember. It was the Omega 321, the new edition of the 321, and some special metal. And I put on, I had tried on a bunch of watches that day at the Mega store, and they were all like, okay.
And he's probably thinking, this is not rich enough for this suit.
Yeah. So then he brings out this final watch, which is the Omega 321. It's the only one that I put on that day. I was like, wow, this is actually kind of nice. And then I asked him, how much is this? And he said $90,000. And at that moment, I was like, this is the most expensive thing my physical body has touched aside from buildings. I have never even touched a car this expensive, to my knowledge. Anyway.
Yeah, nor I.
So I was like, that is crazy. I don't know if he would hand me that watch if I was in a jeans and t-shirt. I have no idea. This is kind of the weird thing because realistically, a lot of rich people in San Francisco dress like jeans and t-shirts. I mean, that's like the weird thing. If I was working in a mega store and I saw you in a suit, I'd be like, that dude has no money. His throne style forum, he has no money left.
He's probably a new lawyer.
He spent all his money on that suit. That dude is broke. So, but that's the only time I've felt that I got unusual treatment or treatment that was a step above what I've received at other stores. No one has ever allowed me to try on something that expensive in my life. And then the other time that comes to mind, and I can't attribute it to my clothes. That's the problem of all these anecdotes.
Yeah.
You have no idea if you can attribute to clothes. But one time I was walking home in my neighborhood and, it's one of those weird things where sometimes it just so happens, it's not because you do it intentionally, but just so happens that you're like walking the same way as somebody. And then you got to do this weird thing where you got to make sure it doesn't look like you're like following them, especially if it's a neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like a thoroughfare, like you're just walking. Right. But if it's like a neighborhood, you're both walking the same direction. Now it's like
a residential neighborhood.
Yeah. And it's, especially if you're a dude. And I just become very self-conscious.
Right.
You know? And the person walking ahead of me happened to be a woman. And I was getting closer and closer to my home. And she spun around and she was like, can I help you? And I was like 30 feet from my front door. And I was like, I live here. And I was dressed like Doug Bilmer from Double RL. Like I was, I had like a chore coat, like, and I was thinking like, did she think that I was like, would it have been different if I wore tailored clothing? Did she have this idea of me because like I was wearing workwear? Like,
possibly.
Like, I don't know, like, I don't know if, like.
Who is this railroad worker
from the 1930s? Who's this railroad engineer? Should have been like, look, lady, do you happen to know this is from Double RL?
I'm actually looking for the South train with my bindle stick and my hobo cap.
I was like,
I'm looking for a job.
I was like, do you understand these are Vibergs? Yeah, I mean, no one has ever spun around like that. And I just explained to her that my home is right there. I have my keys in my hand. I'm about to walk in my home. I don't, I'm not like trailing you. I'm going home.
Did she watch you walk to your home?
I don't know. I didn't want to make it that awkward because I understand, like, I can understand if I was a woman and I was walking in the neighborhood and some dude was seemingly following me. I can understand the concern.
Of course.
I didn't want to get up to my doorstep and spin around and be like, see? Like, that would be super annoying. Like, walk to my home, carry out my cat.
Right. Oh, okay. Hey, so what are you doing tomorrow? You want to go on a walk?
Yeah. So, anyways, I just, let her go away. I went inside. Those are the only 2 times I can think of that, I can't attribute it to what I was wearing, but maybe. I will say that how I'm dressed does affect my mental state when I walk into a store that is carrying very expensive things. I remember in high school, a friend of mine and I went into Armani. It was an Armani store.
Okay.
And I mean, we were like just out of high school or something, like had no money. And I remember just being really, really, both of us were really nervous about going into the store.
Self-conscious.
It's self-conscious. I can't remember if the sales associates treated us differently, but I do recognize it was mainly my own mental state, like thinking, I don't belong here. If I touch something, I'll get it dirty. And like, I don't have a right to be in here. They're going to judge me. They're going to think I'm like broke and poor. And like, they're going to know that I don't belong. And so there's just so much anxiety to it. And I remember reading an article, I think it was maybe in the New York Times or something, where someone had communicated this same kind of unease when they walk into an expensive store. And even though I don't really, I mean, my pocketbook is the same, regardless of what I wear now. But I still carry a little bit of that insecurity when I walk into a very fancy store.
Sure.
And I do feel a little less insecure about it if I'm in tailored clothing, because then I don't like, I don't know. I think it's just that childhood memory. You know, that childhood memory of going into a store and then thinking like, oh man, like these like really fancy, expensive people are going to know, which is weird because, well, I will say that a friend of mine dated a woman who's now his wife. And I found out she worked at the San Francisco Prada store. And she once told me what she made at that Prada store. And I was like, oh, wow. Because for a while I was thinking, well, why do I even think this? Because sales associates are like the same working class people. But then my friend's wife worked at the Prada store and told me what she made. And I was like, oh, whoa, no. They are fancy. Not like Jeff Bezos fancy, but they're like considerably fancier than, you know, just out of high school kind of grubby students. But yeah, I do think that my mental state sometimes is a little bit different if I'm going into a store and I'm wearing something that I think conveys respectability and like, you know, like I belong in this area, even though my pocketbook is obviously the same.
So would it be fair to say that you understand that others may judge you for what you're wearing?
Yeah. And this gets into this broader issue of sometimes I've had this conversation constantly on Twitter, mainly because as my Twitter account has grown, like I've started to talk more about tailored clothing. And so the idea of respectability in dress comes up all the time.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm sure anyone who has read me for a while has heard these same arguments over and over again. I strongly believe that you should not judge other people's deeper, more important qualities based on their attire. I think it's fine to say the outfit may be ugly. I think it's fine to say like you infer certain things about them. Like if I see you wearing a Dodgers jersey, I'll assume you're a fan of the Dodgers or at least a fan of baseball.
Right.
But I wouldn't assume that you're smart or competent or incompetent or immoral or whatever, all these other more important qualities of what defines a person on a deeper level besides their interests.
Their inner qualities.
Yeah. But I do think that it's fine to go through life understanding that sometimes people do judge you based on what you're wearing. And if you choose to, you can either play into the stereotype or you can dress a certain way to elicit a certain reaction, or you can dress a certain way to communicate certain things. So if you are going to a wedding, I at least wear a suit because I want, you know, weddings are expensive. Someone's paying for your food. They're paying for the ceremony. And so they only get one chance at it. Well, hopefully anyway, they only get one chance at it. And there's the photos that they'll keep forever. There's like a whole thing attached to it.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think you should dress in a way to honor your host, to communicate that I honor you on your special day. But I do think that if you arrive to a wedding, you should not judge other people if they happen to be dressed differently.
Because not everyone has that understanding.
Yeah, not everyone has that understanding. And I think it's partly because I have friends that, one friend in particular comes to mind. I've had the same group of friends since high school. And this one guy in particular, total stand-up guy. All my friends from high school are stand-up guys. This guy's total stand-up guy.
Meaning you would trust him with so much.
Oh, he's like salt of the earth. You know, he's never cheated on his loved ones.
So his inner qualities are solid.
Yeah, he's always there for his friends. Solid dude. Just weirdly like lost when it comes to
oblivious
when it comes like
you gotta love those guys.
Yeah, like one time I think he had to buy a suit and he's just like really oblivious. Like it's like teaching like a cat how to put on pants. You know what I'm saying? Like just like I was just sometimes like
do you not know the basic?
I didn't know. It's just unbelievably.
These are pajamas. This is not a suit just because they match.
Crazy. I don't know. It's like you're talking to an alien. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure he would say the same thing to me if he's really into photography. I'm sure there are things that are really natural to him that I'm sure, he just doesn't understand why I don't get. It's like he didn't grow up in the same culture or something. It's very strange. And he's gone to weddings where he doesn't have a lot of money. And so he's not going to buy a suit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Suit's $300 and he's just thinking like, I'm not going to spend $300.
Yeah. Understandable.
But he's still a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
When you go to a wedding, he's the guy that will make others around him feel special, feel comfortable, so on and so forth. And I think that is a more meaningful demonstration of what it means to be a stand-up person at a wedding versus a friend of mine's a wedding photographer, and he said he's seen fights break out at weddings. You know what I'm saying? So like that is
in suits.
Yeah. So like that, I mean, you're a much worse person if you do that.
Right.
So it gets into this thing of what I often talk about on Twitter is that I think it's fun if you decide to dress in a certain way to communicate certain.
Want to hear the rest? Listen to the full episode and many more other exclusive episodes over on our Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Blamo to sign up and join the Blam fam. You also get access to our exclusive members-only Slack group where we chat about this and a ton of other things. So head over to patreon.com/Blamo and we'll see you there.